Okay. Related to material costing and inventory, we have discussed so far many of the important aspects. But that includes how to value your material, what are the different techniques, and how the effects of using different valuation methods can affect the profitability of the business. We also discussed that the order quantity, economic order quantity, that helps us reduce the total ordering cost and total holding cost, and that method help us identify the best possible quantity we should be ordering to the supplier so that these two costs are kept at minimum. So far, whatever we are trying to do, uh, our intention is to do the best regarding material costing. Okay, and especially the last technique we discussed, that was economic order quantity. We basically discussed it for reducing material related costs. Well, that's not the only worry we have to do regarding material. There are other things we need to take care of as well. And one of that is that appropriate level of inventory must be held by the business. It must not be too low that the stock outs occur. That means the production stoppages happen just because you don't have the material to produce and process them into finished good and sell them to customer. And on the other hand, it must not be too high that our cash is just stuck up there for a long period of time, having no use at all. Because if we are buying more than necessary amount of inventory, it will not be doing any good to us. Rather than it will be harming our business. We'll have to incur large amount of expenditures to keep it safe and be ready for processing into finished goods item. So what we do is we introduce inventory control levels by the name minimum and maximum level of inventory. Minimum level of inventory helps us identify that the amount of raw material must not be low, must not be getting lower than a particular level. And if it's going to be happening, then we'll be facing stock outages, production stoppages, and related costs, and which is what we don't want to happen. Because if we are not going to make anything, if we are not producing and not selling or dispatching things on time to the customer, they will not be happy with us, and possibly they will not do any business in future with us. Okay, now this is what the minimum amount of inventory is. I mean, minimum level of inventory is basically that if you are touching that level, your consumption of material will be going on usual basis in your production process. But if you are touching this level of inventory, it's kind of working as an alarm that now it's now the emergent circumstances are upon you, and you should be seeking material at all costs. Otherwise, your production is going to stop. Okay. So this is what minimum level of inventory is. On the other hand, we have maximum level of inventory. This dictates that your inventory must not be more than this level. And if you are going to buy more than this, or if you have the inventory more than this amount, then it will be of no use. Rather than it will be kind of a an extra burden on the income or profits of the business. we have set formulas to calculate these values of the inventory, but there is a third level or third inventory control point which we have, and that is reorder level. Now, many of the students get confused that if we have the minimum level of inventory, then why do we have the reorder level? What's the point in having it? But let's understand this with a diagram here. Let's say that this is your location, or you can say a pot, or a bin in which you are keeping your inventory. Okay. Now your inventory can be up to this point and not be more than that, because if we are going to put in or place more inventory here, it will be just flowing out. Okay, so this is your maximum level of inventory. Right. Now on this bin, you have marked a yellow line, okay, that if your inventory falls below this line, you will place a new order with the supplier. Reorder level. That's what reorder level is. Reorder level is simply the level of inventory at which you place a new order with the supplier. Whereas the minimum level of inventory will be even below than reorder level, let's say by this point. Well, usually your order must be reaching at least before you reach minimum level, or by the time you reach minimum level, your new order must be with you. But if you have reached the minimum level of inventory, that means that you have touched this bottom and your order is still not with you, then you have to take serious steps in acquiring raw material. I mean, you will be going on the route, or be following the course of going for the raw material and buy it from another person rather than your usual supplier, or you will try to arrange it at every cost, so that because if it's not going to happen, and even if this amount of inventory is extinguished by the time your new order is arrived, or you expect that your order is facing delays, and even your minimum amount of inventory will be consumed during that period, then you still seriously have to take some steps so that your production does not stop, or at least sales are not getting affected. Okay, so these are the 2 or 3 different levels of inventory that helps us in controlling things and making decisions regarding when to order and follow up the activity of inventory consumption. But how are we going to measure these values? How do we know that what is the maximum level of inventory and what is the minimum level of inventory, and then what is the reorder level? Okay, so let's have a look. In order to calculate your maximum inventory, we have the formula for that, which is reorder level plus reorder quantity minus minimum lead time multiplied by minimum consumption of inventory. Now let's understand what this formula actually means. Reorder level is the level at which you will be placing new order, plus reorder quantity. If you have placed any order already with the supplier, then it will be arriving soon to you. Okay, now if you have placed the order and if he has dispatched the inventory already, then it is your inventory. Although it is in transit, you haven't received it yet, it's not with you, but it's yours. So when you are calculating the amount of inventory you have or you will have, you must include that inventory as well, because if you are not including that, you won't be making good decision, because in few days it will be in your premises, and if you have taken care of that inventory in your decision making, like calculating the space requirement, calculating the cost requirements, the budget for that, you will be ending up in a problem. So even if the goods are not with you yet, you have placed the orders, or in short, you will include the amount of inventory for which you have placed the order while making any decision regarding inventory. Okay. So reorder level is the amount of inventory you have already with you and you have placed the new order, plus the reorder quantity, the new order that you have placed, minus minimum lead time. Lead time is simply the time taken by the supplier to dispatch an order to you. I mean, the time between you place an order and the order reaches to you, that is lead time. And then consumption of inventory, at what rate you are consuming inventory. Let's say if you are consuming 4 units a day, then and your lead time is 4 days, then in that lead time you would be consuming 16 units. This is how you calculate. So reorder level, reorder quantity minus minimum lead time into minimum consumption of inventory. If you add this up, your inventory must not be more than this amount. Okay. And if you are going to buy more than this inventory, there is no point in buying it. Okay. So your inventory must not be exceeding this level. Now moving on to minimum level of inventory. This is reorder level minus average lead time multiplied by average consumption of inventory. Now you people must be thinking that, what is this average minimum lead time? Why would we have different average difference in consumption rates and lead times? We have 3 different kinds of lead time: maximum lead time, average lead time, and minimum lead time. Maximum lead time is the worst possible situation for us, that it is the maximum amount of time which we expect order is going to take to reach to us. Minimum lead time is the fastest possible time the order will be dispatched to us and being collected by us. Okay, and average lead time is what usually is taken by the supplier to send the goods back to us after we placed an order. Similarly, we have 3 different rates of consumption: minimum, maximum, and average. Maximum just dictates that maximum possible rate of consumption if all of our production activity is occurring at an optimum pace. Okay, and average is what usually is. So it's all about expectations. We want to have a room, we want to give a breather, we want to have a margin inbuilt in our system that we go along with our expectations. So it's all about our expectations. When we are calculating minimum inventory, we will not be considering the minimum lead time and minimum rate of consumption. We'll be using what usually is, okay, what most of the time the situation is. That's why we will be using average lead time and average consumption of inventory. Now if you see, we are reducing the product of average lead time and average consumption of inventory from reorder level. Remember, reorder level is the amount of inventory when we place an order. Now This is what how it happens or how it goes. Your inventory reaches the reorder level. You placed an order. Now it's definitely going to take some time to reach to you, and in the meanwhile you will be using the inventory you have with you. Okay, that's why we have average lead time and average consumption. And whatever number of units you still left with you, you will be consuming out of it. Now, if your order is taking more than usual time, that means the lead time has extended more than average time, or your consumption has increased more than usual, all right, then you will be consuming more units in that meantime. And that's where you have the inventory level, minimum inventory level. You calculate your minimum inventory level on the basis of average consumption. And if any of these two things has increased, I mean average lead time or the consumption rate has increased, you will end up touching the bottom. And if you are touching that level of inventory, then you must be seeking alternate ways. You should be going for and extend an extra effort in buying the raw material. Okay, at least some amount of it so that your production does not stop. It basically is an alarm that you have touched this level now and you must be doing some serious efforts before your production is going to stop. So that's where you will be asking your supplier that why has it been delayed, why the lead time has taken so far, or you will ask the production manager that why consumption rate has gone up, what's happening, are you wasting any material, that's why you are consuming more inventory, or what's the reason behind it. Okay, so you have to look at these two aspects. So this is how now you can see that just by introducing these two levels, now you have started asking questions from different people, and this helps you in controlling inventory levels. Now, but the third one, which we haven't discussed yet, and that is the reorder level. Okay, and you calculate reorder level with this formula, and that is maximum lead time multiplied by maximum consumption of inventory during lead time, basically. Okay, now when you are calculating your reorder level, that means the quantity of inventory at which you should be placing a new order, you will take the worst possible situation, so that even if the supplier is taking more than usual, more than average period of time, or your rate has gone up more than an average rate of consumption, even then you still have some inventory left with you. Okay, that's why you are using maximum lead time and maximum consumption rates of inventory to calculate reorder level. Now you can see that you have the value for this, okay, in both of these two formulas. Now reorder quantity, people must be thinking that what it's going to be, well, it's up to you whether you are following an EOQ basis or some other basis. We have discussed that already, that yes, it is economical to buy on EOQ basis, but in some situations you are motivated to buy on some other levels or some other amounts of quantity of material because you will be having bulk order discount, for example. Okay, so whatever quantity you are ordering to the supplier, that's what you will be using in this or in place of this. Now let's do one question together and understand how things will be calculated. Okay, here we have one question, and it goes like this. A manufacturing limited maintains inventory control system to keep the track of inventory at optimum level or by having maximum and minimum inventory levels, following information is relevant. Average consumption is this much units per day, minimum, and then the maximum. Lead time, 10 to 14 days. Reorder quantity, and that is the amount of units we order every time we place an order. And reorder level is the amount of inventory when we reach up to this, or we have this much units left with us, then we place a new order. This is what reorder level is. Required, calculate minimum and maximum level of inventory. Now, after knowing the formulae of how to calculate minimum and maximum levels, it's really easy for us. Maximum level of inventory will be reorder level plus reorder quantity minus minimum consumption multiplied by minimum lead time. Okay, minimum consumption is already provided to us, but nothing of this sort that says minimum lead time is given to us, but rather we have been given a range of days that starts from 10 days to 14 days. Now this is actually telling us the minimum and maximum possible time an order can take to reach us. 10 days is the minimum possible time for a supplier to send the goods, and 14 is the maximum as he expects or as you expect. So we will be taking 10 days as the minimum lead time. Alright, now let's just now only putting the values in the equation. Reorder level is 7,650 plus 12,200 minus minimum is 230 multiplied by 10. Okay, and if we sum these values up, it comes up as 17,550. That means we must not be holding more than 17,550 units at any moment in time. That means including the units that we have ordered with the supplier, not only the one that we have in the godown, but also that will be with us in due time. Okay, moving on to minimum inventory level. It is reorder level minus average consumption multiplied by average lead time. Okay, again, we have been provided with the average consumption in the question, but we have not been told what is your average lead time. What we are going to do is we'll be taking the average of the range we have been given. Okay, so 10 plus 14 gives us what, 24 divided by 2 gives us 12. Okay, so 12 days. Reorder level is 7,650 minus average consumption is 420 multiplied by 12, 5,040. So 7,650 minus 5,040, 2,610. If your inventory level reaches to this point, that means you will be left only with 2,610 units, then you must be taking emergent steps. You must be arranging the raw material at all costs. Otherwise, you will be using all this up in just a few days. Just look at the consumption. I mean, even if you are consuming the goods at average time period. Okay, that means even if you are consuming the goods at average rate, your minimum inventory even will be eaten up in how many days? I mean, with 420 units each day, they will not be taking just a week. You will be completely without inventory. Okay, so 6 days only you have with when you touch the minimum inventory level, you must be arranging raw material within 6 days. It can be lesser than that. I mean, at worst possible situation, if you are consuming goods at maximum pace, that is 510, then in that case, at max, you have how much time? Only 5 days. Okay, 5 days. So at best, to keep yourself safe, when you touch the bottom, you must be arranging raw material within 5 days. You must check with the supplier that whether he will be able to send you the goods, or goods will arrive within 5 days of touching the minimum inventory level. So this is how you control the material that is with you or about to be with you, or whether it's going to be with you in time or not. Okay. All right. There is one small discussion, a kind of a important discussion rather, that what is average inventory, or how do we calculate average inventory? So far, we know that average inventory consumption, or if we want to calculate just average inventory, when we were calculating holding cost, we were doing something like this. That is the 0 plus reorder quantity divided by 2. Okay, sum of these two, we were dividing it over 2 to calculate average inventory. Okay, but if we are holding a safety stock, now what is safety stock? Let's understand that. Safety stock is kind of a margin that you have, buffer stock, safety stock. I was discussing safety stock, and let's review that again. It's like a two bins, suppose that you have two bins, all right, and in this one, you hold the number of units, you never withdraw. Okay, you never draw any units out of this bin unless you have to. Okay, and usually you draw goods from this bin on regular basis. What you do is, suppose that is your reorder level. You have this bin filled up to this point, up to its very maximum, and then by the time you are using the number of units out of it, it will reach to 0, and then you will be placing an order. This is your reorder level. But suppose that even after you have placed an order, your order has not reached to you, and then this bin is completely empty. Now, if you are not holding a safety stock, then your production would stop. Okay, you will have no other option but to stop your production or stop selling that good. But if you were holding safety stock, then even if this bin or your regular location from which you are drawing the units is empty or without any stock, you will still be able to draw raw material. Okay, and that will that will not let you stop your production, or the regular activities of the business will not be affected because of that stock outages for any unforeseen reason. Now, if you are holding a safety stock alongside with your regular inventory control system, in that case, your average inventory calculation will be slightly different. it will be calculated like this: safety stock plus 0 plus reorder quantity divided by 2. Okay, you will have one more variable in this equation now. Why am I not adding up this safety stock in this average equation? Because your safety stock will not change. It does not reduce. Usually, it will stay fixed. The only part of the equation that will be moved fluctuating from 0 to its maximum is this part of the inventory system, is this bin. So that's why I am calculating average of only this part using this formula. Okay, this is fixed. So I will not be dividing it over 2, because at the start of the period and at the end of the period, or that means that by the time I will be placing an order, or by the time I will be receiving an order, this safety stock will be there for a particular amount. There will be no change in it. So that's why it will be added up separately. Whereas this bin, okay, will be fluctuating from 0 to the reorder quantity. Okay, so that's why we have this kind of formula for calculating average inventory. So next time, if your question has safety stock and you're not given with the value of average consumption and you have to calculate minimum inventory level, you will be calculating average inventory not with the regular formula that we have or that we already know. If safety stock is given in the question, you will be applying this formula to calculate average inventory. Okay, so this is what almost about the inventory control system, and this slight discussion quite briefly that why we hold such controls and what's the point in having these controls. Basically, it's about that we must have appropriate level of material all the time with us.